give him the perms rules.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Could you hear me?
Alaikum salam, I can hear you. Yeah.
Lonerbox, you smarmy cuck bastard.
A few days ago, I don't know, was it yesterday or something? I heard you watched my back and forth with Destiny.
Yeah.
I wanted to know your thoughts on it before I get into my questions. Do you think my points were valid?
Okay, I'm going off a very little memory here. I'm going to say no, but we'll say maybe because I don't remember fully.
Based on what you remember.
Okay,
based on what you remember.
So I think here's one point that I think you made. All right, let's say 1,300 Israelis were murdered by Hamas in the attack, right? And you're like, well, okay, but Israel's already killed like twice that much, at least, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think intent matters when it comes to who dies?
No.
Okay.
No, because people use the excuse of Hamas targeted civilians, but Israel and the IDF, the civilian deaths are collateral damage because they're targeting terrorists, right?
More or less.
So, yes, but that argument falls flat on its face when you look at the West Bank and what they're doing over there. There's no Hamas using human body shields over there, so that argument doesn't work over there, number one. Number two, prior to Hamas, people were getting killed by Israelis. Prior to Hamas even existing back in 1977, prior to then, Israelis were killing Palestinians. So using the argument of Hamas is the reason as to why Israel aggresses upon Palestinians in Gaza is false, number one. Number two, when people talk to people such as myself and say, you condemn Hamas, even hell, there was a post in the subreddit that pretty much was like, he's a terrorist sympathizer. When the first thing that I said when I joined the call with him was, I started it off by condemning Hamas. I started it off by saying targeting innocent civilians, no matter what your justification may be, because people like Hassan go out and say, these are people that were oppressed, these are people that were put in an open air prison for 20 years, and eventually you're going to breed people that are going to be of the extremist nature, right? Mm-hmm. Given all of those justifications, I don't subscribe to it. I still think that it is morally wrong for you to go out of your way and kill innocent civilians, whether they be Palestinian, Israeli, it doesn't matter. It's wrong. That's why I condemned Hamas, right? But then I look at people like Piers Morgan or people like Destiny, even, to be honest, right? People that sit there, but more Piers Morgan in this instance, where when you ask them to condemn Israel, when you ask them to condemn the war crimes that they commit, the first thing that they say is Israel has the right to defend itself. The first thing that they point towards is Hamas. That's a false dichotomy. That means that you believe that the only way Israel could defend itself is by committing war crimes, which I assume you agree with me when I say that that is not the case.
So I don't think Israel has a right to say cut off the water. I agree with that. I think that's a war crime, as far as I've read. Yeah. Okay, here's a question. If Hamas are firing rockets from a building that is next door to some houses, does Israel have the right to blow up that building with the rockets in it?
Well, okay, first, let's go through how they do it, right? They say they drop the first bomb as a warning, correct?
Yeah. Generally.
Let's just follow the logic. If you're dropping the first bomb as a warning, it's not like it's some secret fucking bomb that only could be heard and felt by innocent civilians. You're also warning the fucking terrorists, right?
Yeah.
So how the fuck could you even confirm that you've hit the target that you were meant to hit when you're alerting them that you're about to strike their position?
Because
at that point,
the primary target
any sense for them to do so.
Because the primary target is not people necessarily. The primary target is infrastructure. Yes, Hamas guys can get out of the way, but the weapons and the rocket launchers can't.
And has that stopped them? Let's talk about
has it stopped them? Yeah, of course. Of course, Hamas is weaker if they have less rockets to fire. Yeah.
Didn't stop them from committing the terror attack that they did on October 7th. And the reason
because
why
Israel wasn't bombing the shit out of Gaza like every day. They have the bombing campaign they've done now is already more intensive than like the last 10 years combined or some shit. Yeah. So.
But okay then.
Let's just say they should have bombed Gaza more before the 7th.
But let's take it there then. do you really think that after this bombing campaign, that terror is going to reduce from the Palestinian end towards Israelis? Do you think it's going to reduce, or do you think that this just breeds the next generation of people that are going to despise and hate Israel for killing their families, for destroying their homes? Because when has this ever worked? When has this approach ever worked anywhere?
Well, when the Allies like killed a whole bunch of fucking people in Germany, and then they got rid of Hitler, the Germany was a bit nicer country after that. Like, it's not impossible, but yeah, I agree. That's a difficult decision, right? Is how are they going to? The only way that Israel doing what they're doing works right now is if they can actually take out Hamas's leadership and reoccupy. Because if they don't, then yeah, they are just winning the propaganda war for Hamas. Yeah. So that's a really difficult question. Yeah. But at the same time, it's also like they can't just sit there and let fucking hundreds of rockets get fired at them like forever, right?
So do you think, and I want to know your thoughts on this, right? Do you think the end goal should be for Israel to reoccupy Gaza?
I think it's probably inevitable. So I'm not really I haven't thought that much about the morality of it. If they can do that, I don't know. Fuck. I'd just rather talk about what they would have to do after. Like, yeah.
Would that ensure a good life for Palestinians? Would Palestinians even be treated fairly under Israelis?
On its own, no. It seems to be the case that most Gazans wanted the PA to come back to Gaza in some capacity. So it would have to be like, if they occupy Gaza, make sure make sure that every refugee is like allowed to go back into the north, and there's rebuilding done, and that the PA are getting strengthened, and that they can maybe reopen negotiations, and then they have to freeze the settlements, and then they have to reopen peace talks about pulling back settlements, and maybe and pushing towards Palestinian statehood. Yeah, all that would have to happen. Like, they can't just go back to business as usual. No, that would be fucking insane.
And do you genuinely believe that all of that is actually likely to happen? That the same people that were oppressing these Palestinians all of a sudden will start pushing for them to get statehood, will start pushing for them to have ownership of their land and their people?
No, they won't do that. No, they won't do that. Like I think we need to go back to the days of the United States and Europe twisting the fuck out of Israel's arm until they actually push somewhere forward, because they have been voting for this kind of aggressive shit for like 20 years, right? They've been voting for people who say there's no negotiations, we just have to be stronger, right? And that hasn't worked. Yeah, no, there needs to be international parties pressuring Israel to make advances towards peace. Yeah, they won't do it by themselves.
Do you think in one way or the other that Israel is responsible for Hamas and for them taking control in Gaza? And for them,
they're partly responsible. Iran is also responsible, but Qatar is also a bit responsible. But yeah, no, Israel's obviously got their role. It's not like people. It's not like Hamas are going to get popular in fucking like just some random country that's doing fine, right? Yeah, you need resentment and bitterness for Hamas to become a thing. Yeah.
Perfect. So when people use the moral argument, they say it's not morally equivalent when a Palestinian child dies versus when an Israeli child dies, because the Israeli child was targeted by Hamas, whereas the Palestinian child was killed in an attack that was meant for a terrorist. The reason why that sort of argument, first of all, it falls flat, because if we're talking about moral arguments, and you could agree or disagree, it would be in favor of the Palestinians, because they're the ones that are fighting against their oppressors. They're the ones that are fighting against the people that settled and colonized their lands. So if we're talking about moral arguments, one is fighting against their bully, pretty much. You can't say if a guy is attacking the guy who attacked them first that he's being aggressive towards him. No, he's defending himself. Well, that's what I truly believe.
Hamas were not defending themselves, though. They were killing people. They were killing civilians, knowing that they wouldn't gain shit. Right? If you were talking about Palestinians taking up arms against like military installations in the West Bank, I'd 100% agree with you, right? Like I think violence is part of like liberation struggle in an occupation. That's like normal, right? That's completely acceptable. But Gaza Hamas were given orders to kill as many people as possible. And it seems to be that's what they did. There are civilians just like running down the road to get home, and the guy just shoots them, right? Or the fucking festival, right? These guys were not, you can say like those guys were not Those guys didn't do the Nakba. Those guys didn't fucking kill anyone, right? They were doing a festival. Yeah, no, that's so Hamas were not defending themselves, or that's why it's condemnable, right? It's because it was for no gain. They just slaughtered civilians for its own sake.
Think about it.
I don't even
right?
think Hamas cares, right, about the results. Well, look at they knew that Israel would counterattack.
But do you truly believe that though? Do you truly believe that they didn't sit there knowing the fact that they live in Gaza and they know that Israel is going to counterattack them, and knowing the environment in Gaza in Israel, and them voting these far right politicians that are fucking war hungry, they would have known that they would have fucking got ruined because of this. So you're telling me that they just went on a suicide mission? Does that make any sense to you?
I think it was easy enough for the people of Hamas to sell that story to their recruits, right? Because it seems a lot of them are quite young. It's easy, and you can tell this from the way Hamas talks. They say that one of the most glorious things is to die in the struggle against the fucking Jewish invader, right? So yeah, I think, but for the Hamas leaders, I think it was like, for them, what did they gain? They've gained publicity. They've gained support from the Arab world. They've definitely fucked the Saudi-Israeli peace talks. But for them, you know, they're giving all these orders from fucking a life of luxury in Doha and Istanbul, right? They don't give a fuck. And they just sold that story to, yeah, they weaponized very real and very valid resentment from the people living in Gaza. But for what end, you know? What did they get out of this?
Were you a two-state kind of solution kind of guy, or one state?
I don't believe in Palestinians don't agree with either, and I don't think it's even worth thinking about either. I think I believe more in like immediate policies: stop settlements, empower the PA, recognize right of return, see how it can be negotiated. Like when you think about all these things coming in, maybe that leads to two states, or maybe that leads to one state. But I think I'd prefer more of like a policy line rather than just like a final goal.
Again,
like,
all of this operates under Israel. Yeah, but all of this operates under Israel's mercy, though. It operates under Israel allowing all of these things to happen.
Yeah, that's why I think Israel needs to get pushed to do it. That's the same thing with South Africa. That's the same thing with lots of decolonization struggles.
It's the same. No, but here's the thing: is the same nation that's giving them $3.8 billion up until 2028? Is that same nation going to all of a sudden start pushing them to do this?
They could do. They've done it in the past. Bush Sr. was very pressuring with Israel for a time. His policy of doing that was slightly pulled back by Clinton, unfortunately. Until the 7th, more Democrats, for the first time ever, were in support of Palestinians compared to Israelis, right? If that keeps changing, then yeah, American policy can change, because at the end of the day, these politicians want to get votes. And if the majority of people support the Palestinian cause, then politicians will have to do the same.
Majority of people supporting the Palestinian cause, whereas majority of the politicians support Israel.
No, it was majority of Democrat voters. So yeah, politicians have to consider both Republicans and Democrats. But yeah, that's why Biden was a lot less fucking crazy on Israel than Trump was, right? Trump wanted to annex all of Area C and just give it all to Israel, right? And just leave Palestine with a fucking Bantustan. That's what Trump wanted to do, and Biden thankfully ditched that. So there is a difference. I don't think Trump would be saying quite so much that Palestinian lives matter too, and that they shouldn't be disproportionate, right?
That's a fair point. It's just the fact that I haven't even heard condemnation from the West when it comes to Israeli war crimes. I haven't. I've heard plenty about Hamas. I've heard plenty of what they've done. But hell, even in France, if you're pro-Palestinian, that is being treated as though you're pro-Hamas. Now that's being put down. It's just the coverage has been so insane to me. And even Destiny, right, who claims to be a centrist on this issue, who claims to be non-biased, like separated from this issue. If you were to look at his fucking Twitter page, it's pretty much just, pro-Israel. It's like, oh, is this thing true about Palestine? Did 3,000 people really die? Is this confirmed? But when Ben Shapiro fucking tweeted the burnt chicken nugget that wasn't even confirmed to be a fucking child, right? He said, no, you have to prove it's false.
I think quite a lot of international observers said they saw the same thing, no, with the baby. Like, again, that investigation is still being carried out. I don't know why you would marry yourself to the fact that it's like fake or exaggerated.
Exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. No, but the idea is if you present something like that, the onus of proof is on you to verify whether it's real.
How many of Hamas's videos have you seen? Have you not seen Hamas like throwing fucking grenades into a house full of people who are sheltering? Have you not seen them just shooting people
no, but
trying to run
again,
away and shit. Like, yeah, of course. Like, what?
again, you spoke about intent previously. There's you killing people, and then there's you going out of your way and quote unquote beheading 40 babies. There's you going out of your way raping women. All of these things which haven't been proven, which haven't even, I mean, thank God, people online, plenty of people online. Like, I'd say the common man is in support of Palestine, and a lot of people online have pushed back against like Zionist propaganda. But when it comes to the mainstream media, a lot of them seem to be running with these false narratives. Now, you could tell me that I'm wrong or
We're
that
going
I'm
to need
seeing
to go
things
into
that are from a
examples.
biased
I
lens.
think what you usually see from mainstream media is if they hear a claim from someone, they'll say, this person said this. Right. I mean, I don't know if we think all the Israeli doctors who are showing you pictures of like a mother and her child hugging each other as they get fucking burnt in their own house. Yeah, or like this guy was burnt alive because you can see fucking soot in his trachea. Like,
there's civilian deaths on both sides. Yes, this is true. But
okay,
nobody,
but we're
nobody
talking about
points at the
condemnation.
Palestinian kids and says, but nobody points at the Palestinian kids and says Israel is targeting kids.
That's not,
nobody says that.
No one says it because there's no evidence that they're trying to kill as many kids as possible. There's no IDF order that's been found of them saying kill as many people as possible. We have seen that from Hamas.
But there has been a disregard for human life when it comes to them seeing civilians as collateral because Hamas used them as human shields.
Yeah, and inquiries have found Israel guilty of recklessness when they used white phosphorus in 2008. The UN has already accused them of collective punishment for what they're doing with the water. I don't know why Channel 4 have been challenging Israel like fucking to the point where they're being accused of like propping up Hamas. But not one of the few. This is happening a lot.
One
like,
of the few indeed. No, it really is. Come on, it really is. Because if you were to look at most mainstream media, and when they bring on Israeli representatives, more times than not, they let them fucking say their points without being cut off, without being corrected. Whereas if you were to bring on anybody that has a pro-Palestinian stance, the first thing they ask them is, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn the October 7th attack? Do you condemn the targeting of civilians? But nobody asks Israel and their representatives of condemning their war crimes.
Every complaint you're making, it just sounds exactly the same as Ben Shapiro, but just like with the words changed over. He's really upset that the BBC won't call Hamas a terrorist organization. He's really upset that like the New York Times and all these other people call Hamas a militant group. People are
He's been spreading misinformation.
People are really fucking upset that the Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas, gave that number 500, and Reuters reported it, the fucking Guardian reported it, the BBC reported it, and they're all fucking walking it back now. So I don't know why you're talking about this. Is actually one of those wars where I feel like even though both sides have a very different level of checks and balances, both sides are being represented quite fucking equally. I don't know if you know what's happening in the Arab world right now, but in the Arab world, like Al Jazeera and shit like that, they're just saying, like, they're just repeating all the lines of the Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas. So, and Twitter is fucking, I don't think I've ever seen the internet this divided over anything. Definitely not over Russia and Ukraine. So, unless you want to show me a specific article and we can go through it and maybe agree and disagree or whatever they're saying, but I don't know why you're getting. I think you're just upset because like when you're
Russia hold on. Russia at this point in their war against Ukraine was sanctioned and put to the fucking ground.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying there's a lot more division on this one.
There was more action taken again, and people always fucking look at me and say, "Q, you're fucking retarded. It's not even comparable." Would you acknowledge that there's a lot of comparable things between the Russian and Ukrainian conflict and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Okay, tell you what.
Why not?
If a bunch of Ukrainians flew over to Moscow on paragliders and slaughtered 1,000 Russian civilians, and they were run by people who were so anti-Russia that they thought Russians were the fucking devil, and they denied like the Russian Holocaust.
You're trying to do a one-to-one comparison. You're doing a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah, because it's not a one-to-one.
There's rarely anything in life that's one-to-one comparison. I've never said it's one-to-one comparison. You just made that up right now. I've said there's a lot of elements. There's a lot of. I said there's a lot of elements. I said there's a lot. I didn't say it's a one-to-one comparison. I said there's a lot of elements that are comparable between the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. I didn't say it's one-to-one. I said a lot of it's comparable, which is when they targeted the power plants and they cut off electricity to certain cities in Ukraine. The European nations came out and they said this is a war crime This is targeting civilian infrastructure. You're cutting off electricity to this amount of people. This is illegal. These are innocent people. When they targeted residential buildings, hell, even in Mariupol, Russia used the excuse that the Azov battalion was hiding in residential areas and using Ukrainians as human shields. And they justified, by the way, targeting civilian infrastructure with that excuse. Did the Europeans accept it? Did America accept it? Absolutely fucking not. They said, this is a fucking war crime. This is reprehensible. But when it comes to the fucking Israelis, they let them slide with it. Do you get what I'm trying to tell you right now? Do you see where the comparison comes from?
I'm going to take you on one point there, because this is why the analogy isn't even. It's not even like it's not even comparable at all. Hamas admits that they use people as human shields. Do you know that?
Okay.
They say how proud they are of Palestinians who are willing to stand on a building that's got a military installation on it and give themselves up for the fucking holy fight, right? They've said that. We know that UNRWA, the UN schools, where they have literally said that there are fucking Hamas rockets in the schools. They know that. I don't know if there's any evidence that Ukrainians have done that, right?
But how does that change the material of my argument, though? How does that change the material of my argument?
Because when Russia accuses Ukraine of using civilian human shields, they're wrong.
Unless you're saying the civilians that are killed by Israelis are ones that volunteer themselves to die, pretty much. Unless if that's what you're saying, then I wouldn't argue.
It's because Ukrainians have not admitted, or there's not any evidence that Ukrainians have embedded all their military installations within civilian infrastructure and then tried to force the civilians to stay when they're being attacked. Ukraine, when all the civilians wanted to leave, you know what Ukraine did? They left. They got them to leave. And they also tried to open humanitarian corridors to let the civilians leave. Are Hamas trying to get the Rafah crossing open? No, they're not. They told everyone to stay in the north.
So, first of all, when 1.1 million Palestinians were told to evacuate northern Gaza to the south, that in itself was an insanity. And you acknowledge this, that Israel even demanded this was fucking crazy. And they designated 2 safe roads, which they then ended up blowing one of them, killing 70 civilians.
Okay, if we're going to go case by case, I don't know that story in particular, but we can. Okay,
you could look it up. You could look it up if you want. They blew up one of the 2 roads that they designated as safe, killing 70 plus civilians.
So again,
the UN at that point, tell me at that point that Hamas was in the road using civilians as human shields as well.
Again, the UN said that warning, that 24-hour warning, was way too unreasonable. Okay, we know that. We know that multiple journalists said that as well. Again, I don't know. You're trying to say like both sides of like human shields between Ukraine and Hamas, though. There's not any evidence for that. Hamas still told them to stay.
No, but again, the problem is you're not willing to commit to the point that you're actually making. The point that you're making right now, because the only difference in what you're stating between Russia and Ukraine is the fact that, or the Russia and Israel, is the fact that Palestinians in Gaza were willing to stay to defend Hamas and use themselves as human shields.
It's also,
you're saying they volunteered to do so.
It's also because Ukraine never tried to take over Russia. Ukraine never crossed Russia's border to try and capture territory.
Stop.
That's why Russia's war was completely unprovoked.
I didn't tell you it's a 1-to-1 comparison, so we don't have to go through.
But that's a really important difference, right? If a country attacks you, you have the right to attack them back. It's the case with any other country.
Okay, and then if a fucking state colonizes you and settles on your land, you have the right to attack them back. You could use the same justification.
I've told you that. I've never told you that Palestinians have no right to fight back.
Okay, but they shouldn't have attacked. Yeah, but they shouldn't have attacked civilians, which we agree on, right? So you basically pretty much.
I also don't think they have the right to try and take Israel back. That's just, why? What the fuck is the point in trying
fight back with them? What are they fighting back against?
West Bank.
If it's not
West
to
Bank
reclaim the land that was stolen from them.
They can fight against settlements. They can fight against checkpoints. They can fight against the blockade.
So you're saying, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. So you're pretty much saying they don't have the right to take back the whole thing, but they have the right to take back a tiny bit of it.
They have a right under international law. So under international law and under like most of the world's countries agree is that Palestinians have like some right to the 6-7 borders, right? We know that.
Okay.
So, and there are military installations there. There's an occupation. That's why we call the occupation Gaza and the West Bank. People have a right to fight against that military apparatus. Yeah, that's not what Hamas did. Hamas killed civilians. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the establishment of the state of Israel to begin with was legal?
No. or
Then
legal
why
in
don't they have the right
like
to
legal
fucking?
and
Then why don't they have the right
internationally
to
it
fight
was
back and
legal.
get everything? No,
Internationally,
but
it
okay,
was
then
legal.
why did you say no? Then why'd you say no then?
Because I don't think it was legitimate. I
Oh,
don't think the way the Nakba was not a good way to start a state, right?
so if you so you believe that the Palestinians have a moral, not illegal, right? Because you said internationally it was legal, right? So you believe that the Palestinians have a moral right to fight back and take over the entirety of Israel
No, they
because you believe
don't.
its
Because
establishment itself was illegal, morally.
do you think the establishment of the United States was legal?
We're not talking about the United States. And
No,
hell,
no,
if they
no,
want
no.
to give
Wait,
it
we
back
need
to
to
the
see if you're
natives,
consistent.
I am consistent. I am consistent. Give
The
it back to the
natives
fucking
should fight
natives.
back.
Like I give a fuck.
So it's okay for the
If they
natives to
could fight
kill
back,
white Americans to take it back, right?
if they could fight back, and we know when it comes to resisting your oppressor, pretty much like damn near anything goes. When it comes to fighting your oppressor, pretty much. And I think this is even acknowledged internationally. Like this is acknowledged internationally. It's not like I'm making this
It's
up,
not
right?
acknowledged internationally. What's
Yes,
acknowledged
it is.
internationally is
Yeah.
that we have borders and we tend to stick to them once they're internationally recognized. But
No, but first of all, these borders that were made illegally, and again, you
no, they were
recognize
not
it's
made
illegal.
illegally.
So you said
Israel is
illegal
recognized by the entire fucking world, apart from like a few countries in the Arab world. So no.
So because it's recognized by the entire world, that makes it just.
You asked me
I'm
about
just
legally.
curious
We
on
can
your-
talk about morally if you
okay.
want.
No, morally, you agree with me though. So why would we even talk
Morally,
about that?
I can say the foundations of it were very fucking gross, but that's true with so many countries. Like, why do you think at what point, sorry, wait, people who live in the Muslim world, at what point did they stop being occupiers?
Probably 1900s,
Why?
late. I mean, we had the Ottomans, and then after that, yeah, I'd say 1900s. So like, obviously,
as the
people
borders were
occupied other
formed?
people.
As soon
Yeah,
as the borders
obviously
were
people.
formed.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but again,
So that's
first
the
of
same
all,
with Israel.
we could go into the argument. We could go. Well, hold on. We could go into the argument that most
Habibi.
borders. We stop. Stop. We could go into the argument that most borders are garbage to begin with. Most borders were just drawn retardedly to begin with. We could go into that argument, but we don't have to. It's just the fact that this land, first of all, a mandate of Palestine pretty much being fucking controlled and owned by the British, where they could do whatever the fuck they want with it, and then they decide to give it over to fucking a bunch of goddamn refugees, and they're like, here you go, you could establish your homeland on it. It in itself is fucking insane. And all of this goes back to the British and how scummy they are and how they fucked up all the world, even after they fucking decided to decolonize like 99% of it.
Yeah, it was, but the Muslim conquests were pretty gross as well, right? The Romans taking all the fucking Jews out of Judea.
The whataboutism argument.
It's not a whataboutism.
Argument.
I'm making the same argument
weak.
you made. The same argument you gave for why those Muslim countries have the right to exist now, even though they were founded on conquest, is probably because like trying to do otherwise is not worth all the fucking pain and suffering. Like, let's face it. Tell me your probability. What are the chances of Palestinians and fucking Hezbollah and Iran winning a war and conquering all of Israel?
First of all, I'll answer your question. I'll just say your argument's pretty much might makes right, and Israel is mightier than Palestine. So
yeah, might makes right. That's why I'm okay with the Muslim world being the way it is, even though it was founded on conquest. Yeah.
Yeah, but again,
I don't want to give Lebanon back to the Christians.
I could just counter and say like damn near all the world was formed on conquest, but that's neither here or there. I'll say this.
No, it is here or there though. it's the entire center of the point.
I truly believe, and this is wishful thinking, and I'll acknowledge this. I truly believe that if the Arab nations came together, if the Muslim nations came together, that they could easily overpower Israel, but they'll never come together. Even if this benefits them all, they still not do it.
Okay, and here's part two. And you, as a brother who opposes killing of civilians, that happens. Basically, every Jew in Israel just gets killed, right?
Depends on who takes control, right?
Which Arab fucking nation? What Arab army is going to go in there that would not let that happen?
You really? Oh, come
Iran?
on! You're Lebanese. You really think like
bro?
Like
Lebanese people are the most anti-Semitic motherfuckers.
Lebanese people. No. The reason I said you're Lebanese is like you have. I'd assume you have more of a feel of the region than somebody that has no ties to it. Lebanese, they're not only anti-Semitic, they're racist. They're like they have all the isms combined. Okay, they got the Infinity Stones, but that's again,
Wallah.
that's another topic. What I'm saying is, people don't have that big of a hate boner for Jews as you believe they do. I swear to God,
I think
like most
Hezbollah
Muslims,
does. I think
wallahi,
the
they don't.
IRCG does. I think Hamas does. These are the
You're
kind of guys who
telling me
would be
right
leading
now-
the fucking charge against Israel. No,
You're telling me right now. You're telling me right now that there isn't a single political party in Palestine that is moderate or even slightly like more progressive than fucking Hamas, that wouldn't fucking want to just slaughter Jews left,
no,
right,
I
and
support
center.
those ones. I support people like
So they exist.
Marwan
Okay.
Barghouti, but they're not going to lead the charge to reconquer Israel. They don't want to do that. Does
They're not
Barghouti want to
going to
conquer Israel? What the fuck? I think he might
No,
say
they're-
one state solution when we all have voting rights and try to live equally and democratically.
And do you think, okay, let's assume the Palestinians are able to take over Israel, they win, whatever. Do you think that Hamas or whoever led the charge wouldn't hold democratic elections, and they'd basically be like, no, we'll do it the same way we did it in the West Bank, even though, we were occupied then and we were under siege, but, right now we're free, but fuck it, we're not going to hold elections? Do you think they do that?
I mean, they might hold elections after they've killed all the Jews. Maybe.
Like, come on, you just want them to fucking murder the Jews at this point.
I don't want
Like-
them to. I want you to acknowledge that that's what they would do. Why wouldn't they? It's been their policy ever all the way up until now.
It's a possibility. I agree with you. It's a possibility. But
Okay,
you make
is it
seem
is
like
it worth the risk?
Okay, so at this point, you're pretty much saying, is it worth the risk of genociding Jews, or should we just keep these Palestinians basically occupied and under apartheid? Pretty
false
much?
dichotomy.
Yeah,
No.
Not really. That's what you're saying. You're saying live with the current conditions.
Do you think two
but with
states?
Israel having more mercy on you?
Do you think if they have two states, that's still occupation and apartheid?
Two states? What two states are we talking about? 1967 borders?
Yeah, with
Are we
land
talking
swaps.
about
Yeah.
And
67
Israel
borders.
completely pulls. Israel pulls out. They have no control. They have no say whatsoever.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, do you think Israel would agree to that? I'm pretty sure Palestinians
Well,
would
I've
agree to it.
already told you
Hell,
that Israel
Palestinians,
needs their.
you've said like Palestinians agree to this. You've said Palestinians like up to like
They have
the
done, yeah.
1990s
Mhm.
agree to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've
So,
told you that
what
Israel
changed?
needs to get their arms twisted to do that. Yeah, I've told you that. Israel won't do it by themselves, but that's not what I advocate for. I advocate for big, strong men with fucking pro-Palestinian Western supporters doing it instead, right? Like, yeah.
And how could that be done?
It's been done before. Bush Sr. has threatened to, has
It's-
withheld
okay, yeah,
loan
it's
money
been-
to push Israel to enter
Okay.
peace talks and to free settlements. I think if he can do it, I think a modern president can do it as well.
So what you're saying is Biden needs to cut the $3.8 billion a year he gives them.
Yeah, I think he needs to freeze certain guarantees and say, mate, stop the settlements, give more fucking credit, give more like a say to the PA, and like try to advance peace. Yeah.
And now, just like you said, which one is more likely, with the Jews being genocided by Hamas or, by a progressive party taking over and, pretty much not hurting anybody? I'll ask you the same. I'll ask you the same. Which is more likely? Biden bending over and dick sucking Israel like he's been doing, right? Or him pretty much putting his foot on their neck and saying, you got to start doing things our way. You got to start fucking, giving these people their rights back.
I think that
Which
latter,
one is more likely?
I think that latter one is more likely than anyone invading Israel. It's like a hierarchy, right? The
No,
first
come
one's-
on. I gave you A, B, and you went to fucking C. I only gave you A, B.
Okay. A is more likely than B, but B is more likely than C.
There we go. You just made up C, but I'd agree with you. Fuck it. But you just made up C in this scenario. You just
I
fucking
prefer
put
B
it
to
when I
C,
did it.
motherfucker. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's easy for
But-
you to say with this fucking grand, holy invasion of Israel, but it's easier for you to say that, like, first of all, there's no guarantee you win. There is a guarantee that a fuck ton of Arabs would die. And I don't want that. Fuck.
Whoa, wait, hold on. You think genuinely, it's not Arabs, I said Muslim nations. You're telling me if Muslim nations combine together on like a holy war, jihad level type, enter Israel, you're telling me that they wouldn't win? Like, this won't be the repeat of like the Arab nations fucking dick.
Israel pointed
then.
their nukes at Damascus because there were Syrians in the fucking Golan Heights. What do you think they would
Bro, they
do
ain't using-
if
bro,
there was
they
a
ain't using
penetration
that
of their
shit.
borders by the Arab state, by the Muslim states?
The moment they shoot a single fucking nuke is the moment that they're gonna lose each and every single bit of support that they've had from the West.
That's not true. Not
The
if they get
moment
not if they
a
get
single-
fucking invaded by people who want to commit a second Holocaust. They
No,
have every
don't
right
matter.
to do that.
No. People. First of all, again, it's you and your assumptions. Number one. Number two. Even if that were the case, people wouldn't still support them.
Wait, do
People
you
wouldn't
know
support
what's
them
happened?
using a nuke.
Do you know what's happened to public opinion on Israel and Palestine just because of October 7th? Have you seen the polls? Like the British public have flipped.
What was it previously?
Previously, more British people supported Palestinians than Israelis, and it just completely 180'd after October 7th. That's over Hamas capturing what, like a couple of towns for a few hours? What do you think would happen if there was like a fucking holy fucking trinity coming from all sides, pushing through the borders, taking cities?
Again, you're the one who pushed the idea of them holocausting them.
Well, that's
I
what they
said
would
a
do. The
holy
people who
war,
are willing
not
to
a-
do that would Holocaust them. Yes, they would. What the fuck are you
Come
talking about?
on, again, stop. I refuse to buy into this narrative. When you said Hamas, I was like, I'll give it to you just because of their charter, just because of their history, just because of what they did in October 7th.
IRCG?
What I'm telling you,
do you say for the IRCG?
No, hold on. When I'm telling you, it's Muslim nations. I'm not talking about Palestine and their organization. I'm talking about Muslim nations in general. And you're like, Muslim nations, holy war, jihad. Oh yeah, they're genociding the motherfuckers. You just decided to take that fucking stance. That stance presented itself just because you heard Muslims try to take over the Holy Land. Oh, they're going to kill them.
It's IRGC. I said it wrong. Wait, okay. How do you think it would happen? How do you think this invasion of Israel, this Jew-friendly invasion of Israel would go?
First of all, we act as though this didn't happen when Salah ad-Din went inside Jerusalem and didn't slaughter any of the Christians, even though 100 years prior they slaughtered all the Muslims. We act as though history can't repeat itself because you like to refer to history when you're like, oh, the United States twisted Israel's arm previously with Bush Sr. So just like you referred back to history, I'll refer back to history, right? When Salah ad-Din opened Jerusalem, right? He didn't kill a single Christian. He gave them safe passage to wherever they wanted to be, and the ones that wanted to stay, they could stay. So that could be a possibility. I don't know why you're negating the fact that could happen.
This is back in
Now,
like
I'm
the
not ignore-
1100s, right?
It doesn't matter how long ago it
Okay.
was. History's still history. Like your shit was back in the 90s too. Nigga, I wasn't alive. It might as well have been the fucking
Same thing.
1200s, 1100s. Yeah, fuck it. I wasn't
You're laughing
around,
yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
You need to sell me.
but
You need to sell me
you get
this.
what I'm
You
trying
need
to
to
say.
sell me this. So obviously, in your scenario, Hamas can't do it because they'd kill all the Jews. The IRGC can't do it because they'd kill all the Jews. Hezbollah cannot do it because they'd kill all the Jews. Who's doing it? Assad? Fucking.
You know what? You know what's so easy? The easiest way I could explain this to you is prior to the formation of Israel, when it was Palestine. You could say Mandate of Palestine, or you could say it was under like Ottoman rule, whatever.
Well, it was lived on by Palestinians mostly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Palestinian, Arabs, Muslims, Jews, Christians, didn't matter. They lived together, right? Afterwards, you've seen what happened with the Palestinians. You've seen what happened. So the Jews had a better life in Palestine under Palestinians than the Palestinians have under Israelis.
I don't.
Could that be even argued?
Under British Mandate or under the Ottomans? Because I'd say probably neither, right? Ottoman Empire was like, I think Ottoman Empire was more apartheid towards Jews than Israel is towards Palestinians within Israel. Do you mean under the British when there were like massacres in fucking Hebron, or like when are you talking about?
So you're telling me they expelled millions of Jews out of their homeland?
Oh, you're talking about 48. Okay, I thought you were talking about. I thought you said when they look back when they lived in peace.
No. I'm talking about 48.
Okay.
So Palestinians under Israelis suffered more than Jews did when they lived in Palestine prior to it being Israel.
If you're talking about 48, then yeah, I don't think there was like a. Not in Palestine. I don't think there was.
I truly. This could be my bias. I'll give it up to you. I truly believe that under Palestinian rule, right, and obviously it not being Hamas, it's a big caveat, but it is one, right? I truly believe that Jews, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, whatever they want to be, they'd all live in peace together.
But I don't
I
think. But
genuinely believe
that's
this.
because you tend to downplay what the Arab states were like in the 40s towards Jews, right? I don't know if I have to name how many of these states had like pogroms in them, right? Iraq, there was a pogrom in the 40s. Yemen, there was one in the 40s. Algeria had one. Fuck yeah, like, not to mention all the like hate crimes. There's a reason. Again, there's a reason that as soon as they got the opportunity, all the Mizrahi and fucking Sephardic Jews left immediately. It wasn't for a change of scenery. It's because they were getting fucked.
There isn't a single nation on earth that you could point towards besides Israel that treated the Jews well.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying they'll all be fine and live in peace, and I'm saying obviously not. Yeah, what?
No, what I'm saying is, given your logic, the only place where Jews could exist in peace, the only nation where Jews could exist in peace, is Israel.
In the Middle East, yeah,
Like,
basically, yeah.
No, fuck the Middle East, bro. I'm talking about historically. I'm talking currently. Like, don't negate history in this as well, because you're like, there's a reason why Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews, they all went to Israel, right? But we're forgetting the Ashkenazis, right? Like, they weren't treated good in the fucking West either, right? They got fucked super hard. We obviously we know what happened to them, right? So you can't point towards a single nation where they were treated well. If that's the case, to me, I looked at it as the best treatment in the worst case scenario, and that happened in the Muslim nations.
Like, that's still not good though, right? That's a low bar. It's a very low bar.
Yeah, sure. No, fair. It's a low bar, but it doesn't justify them establishing a homeland on top of other people's land.
Actually, I don't even know. Were there pogroms in the UK between like 1900 and 1950? I don't think there were. I know that Eastern Europe was anti-Semitic, but before they were under Nazi rule, I mean, there were pogroms in Russia. Western Europe, like Spain.
Do you acknowledge my point, though?
No, I don't know, because I don't know, because like I feel like there were parts of Europe that weren't as fuck it now. For that period, they had it worse in Europe than they had in the Arab world. Yeah, if we're going by broadly.
Okay.
USA, I don't know. USA, they had it pretty good.
And they still moved from that motherfucker, and they moved to Israel, anyways. Even where they had it good,
they
moved to Israel.
Fair, most of them don't, right?
Yeah, most of them still fucking sim for Israel, regardless. You'd fucking think they're Israelis, anyways. So to me, I'm just telling you,
it's not entirely true.
Really? Come on, really?
I don't think they sim for Israel is hard for Israel. Like, no, but they I think in America, what they say, they have like at least some connection or some affection for Israel. Yeah, sure, varies.
So you truly believe that the solution, right, to conclude this conversation, I've had a lot of fun, right? You truly believe that the solution would be for the United States to twist the arm of Israel, get them to stop being as fucking war hungry as they've been, get them to, work towards pulling out of the West Bank, pulling their settlements out of the Palestinian territories, and then eventually in the future establishing a two-state solution with the borders of 67.
I don't know if it would lead to two states. Like, it could, most likely, yeah, it would lead to two states. I don't like using two states solution though, because I don't think two states needs to be forever. That's a different story. But yeah, mostly, yeah. I think that's the most actionable, and that isn't the most violent. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Lovely conversation. Appreciate it. Listen. I tried having the conversation. By the way, before I leave, last question. You think his coverage is biased, at least on his Twitter page? I'm not talking about his streams, but when it comes to his Twitter page and the way that he's covering it, do you think there's like strong bias against Palestinians?
If I saw Destiny's Twitter, I would think he doesn't like white leftists. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he keeps harping on the fucking
incidentally looks like
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but that in itself is fucking, to me, genuinely, it's pathetic. Because instead of focusing on the conflict at hand, you'd rather focus on fucking Hassan mods and Hassan himself and his takes, and like putting his takes down instead of tackling the problem in itself and making memes about Palestinians and about how progressive they are in the West. And like in Palestine, they'd all fucking be stoned to death, and making all these type of memes, acting as though there isn't extremism present in Israel itself. There's a reason why their fucking government is as fucking far right as it is today. That didn't fucking spawn out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's because of the fucking population. But he doesn't address these things. So
personally, I do
Uh-huh.
think the opinions of Israelis matters like a little bit, because at the end of the day, they do have to, even if America's twisting their arm, at the end of the day, they still have to agree to something, right? Same with South Africa.
Mhm.
The white population had to agree to end apartheid in the referendum, 92. So, my personal reason for the why I shit on leftists in the way I have is so that, like, one of the results has been that I get a lot of liberal Israelis, or maybe even some right-wing Israelis in my community, and then I can, like, at least show them that there's advocacy for Palestine that is not anti-Semitic, that is not maximalist, that isn't going to get them killed, that listens to their concerns as well. So maybe there's a good reason for that. Maybe I don't know if Destiny's having the same result, but that's why I do it. I can't speak for him.
That's fair. That's a fair take. Do you think it's crazy when people like Piers Morgan can't even condemn Israeli war crimes?
I haven't seen him. Didn't he not say he was against the disproportionate? I don't know. Probably.
Whenever he's asked straightforward, you condemn the war crimes that are committed by Israel, the cutting off of electricity, the targeting of civilians, or the disproportionate targeting of civilians. The first thing that he says is Israel has the right to defend itself.
I don't think they've
Whenever
been accused of disproportionately targeting civilians, but I
or,
think
or their attacks disproportionately kill more civilians than otherwise. Whenever that's brought up to him, he constantly says Israel has the right to defend itself.
So that second thing you mentioned is technically not a war crime, but I think people in my chat are saying that Pierce condemned the water freeze, the water cutoff and the electricity thing. People in my chat are saying
no, Pierce. The thing with him is he speaks out of both sides of his fucking mouth, because he also says, them trying to like enter Gaza, like with their tanks and with like with their soldiers, that them fucking cutting off water. What does that lead to? He said it plenty of times. Well, like, what's the end goal? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish with doing all of this? It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, when he's asked to condemn their war crimes, he always falls back to Israel has the right to defend itself. Always.
That's
always.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like Piers Morgan, so wouldn't put it past them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Do you debate like the pro-Zionist people?
Yeah.
Like, do you debate them on your stream?
Yeah. Probably more so them than anyone else since the thing started. That was mostly in the first couple of days as well, when they were all a bit freaked out about what was happening. Jews are a small community, they all, like, everyone knows someone who lost someone, right? In October 7th, so yeah.
Also, something real quick tangent. Something that fucking irks me is when Piers says this is the biggest attack on a civilian populace since 9/11. Brother, 2018, 700 plus people died in Somalia to 2 trucks being filled with explosives. I mean, listen, I don't know if we count black people as civilians, but buddy, that fucking irks me. I don't know, it bothers me so much.
How did they die?
That's besides.
How did that happen in Somalia?
5 minutes from where I live, actually. That 2 trucks filled with explosives came in it's in a place where a lot of traffic occurs, and they just blew up. They just fucking detonated. Like 2 fat ass fucking trucks. It wasn't like the tiny fucking pickup. I'm talking about like the fucking big ass.
2018 or this year? There's one in this year.
2018.
Oh.
There's been attacks this year as well, but
was
the
this like
biggest one that was a terror attack by Al Shabaab. That was the most massive one. That one, like 700 plus people died. It was terrible.
Yeah,
so
well, that's mainstream media for you. We don't have Western partnerships in the English-speaking world that much with Somalia as we do with Israel. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit nasty. But I'm gonna let you get back to your things, man. Appreciate the conversation. It was fun.
Yeah, it was the same with Lebanon. I think there was a terror attack in Lebanon that killed a whole bunch of people right before the Paris attacks. But obviously, Paris got the news. But that's kind of
couldn't give a fuck, right?
I mean, it's what happens though. It's what happens with, like, obviously people care about what's closer to them, or not geographically, like, I mean, politically and culturally and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why there's also naturally going to be biases towards people like that. Even when it comes to them looking alike, there'd be biases, because You've seen it with the coverage of when the Ukraine war started, when
Mhm.
news anchors were like, "These aren't those filthy goddamn Arabs. They're dark skinned. They're brown eyes. These are white people with blue eyes and blonde hair." Like,
I did see
I'm sure
that
you've seen
woman who
you've
said
seen
that.
that
Yeah,
shit.
she's like, "This
Yeah,
isn't some Arab country. This is Europe." Yeah, she did say that. Yeah.
fucking. And there was a
Yeah.
guy too that said it as well. Yeah, it was fucking disgusting. Yeah, maybe that's why I'm the way that I am when it comes to these things. But either ways, yeah. I appreciate you for the conversation, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
He's not that bad. I like him. He's the voice of God. That's pretty it. Do you condemn the attack on Doncaster? I don't.